Дечки, фала и што сте тука. Фала на Рики за одлична презентација. Многу беше добар, заборив дека ја презентирам. Фала на Dynamics User Group за прилика. Обично не презентирам, не сум навикнат, ама сега навалагам овие води. И фала што ми дозволувате на англиски ја презентирам. Малце може ќе биде хаос, ама не кажам зашто. Не кажам. Така да, ќе почнеме, ќе зборам за Azure функции, како да ги поврзуваме со стари legacy системи, on-premise системи, такви работи. Ќе наврзам повеќе сега и ќе сменам на англиски. Те прво кажам за мене. Јас сум Филип Kocevski, работам како CRM Power Platform Developer или консултант. 5 години сум во Solution8 и, како што гледате, не сум искусен спикер. Така да, сега се префрлам на англиски и се надевам ќе уживате. Okay, so first, this is basically the whole agenda. I will be talking about why connecting the legacy stuff and the new stuff is not so easy as it looks. I will talk about a unified model that everyone can use, basically a whole framework. And if you take anything from this presentation, let it be the unified integration model, because this will basically, as you can see there, a framework for how to connect the Power Platform, Azure as middleware, and the legacy layer. We will have some real patterns that work. We will go over multiple scenarios that will basically dictate which pattern you will use for which scenario. Of course, we'll have some legacy system strategies based on the life trajectory of your legacy system, so you can pick your corresponding strategy. We'll have some governance and security stuff, some policies, security policies as well. And we'll have a pattern choice. We'll have a multiple scenarios. You can choose which pattern is best for your enterprise. So here I have some numbers that are from the MuleSoft benchmark report from the 2025. So basically, this is the intro. Why connecting old and new stuff is harder than it looks. It's not just connecting them. There are so many factors behind it. So we can see the first number, 69% of enterprises run critical workloads on legacy systems. This means that legacy systems are included everywhere in Dynamics and in every enterprise, right? We have human resources, supply chain, customer service, etc., which means this is not a temporary problem. It's an ongoing problem, and we need to fix this, because the CRM world is basically a cloud native world nowadays, so basically legacy is basically dying out, and that's why we need to make some changes. We have the annual cost. We can see it's 6.8 million when integration is built without governance, which means we need to have some governance, and this is an architecture problem. We can just do, let's connect Power Platform to legacy system without noticing anything else, without overlooking anything else. So I'll delve deeper into that further. And we have 81% of failed projects cite integration complexity as the root cause. And notice it doesn't say development issue or something like that. The root cause is integration complexity, which means the architecture is the problem. We need to architect a project from scratch properly, so we don't have this issue. I will talk about some common pain points that I've encountered while connecting a legacy with Power Platform. We have point-to-point integration that are creating spaghetti architecture. For this purpose, I created a basic visual so it can help you. So we have a few Power Automate flows, let's say, and one endpoint, and it looks fine, as we can see. But the thing is, everything is connected directly, and if the endpoint changes, we basically have error in every Power Automate flow. So this is what we call spaghetti architecture, and we really want to avoid this at any cost. Further, we have no visibility in data flows. If I come to you as an enterprise and I ask you, where do you go when 32 flows fail at 2 a.m. and you tell me you go to the flow history to check for the errors, then you don't have architecture, you have hope, basically, and we don't want to base anything on hope. So the thing is, we need to have Azure as middleware, and we can log everything there. I will delve more into that as well. We have the security gaps for legacy systems. Basically, legacy systems have their own security, like OAuth, whitelisting of IP as well. But the thing is, when we connect directly Power Platform environments to legacy systems, we basically transfer the attack to the Power Platform environment, where basically every user with the maker security role privileges can see the credentials if they can. We don't want to do it. We want to have them safe in Azure middleware, as I'll mention further. We have Power Platform connectors, healing throttling errors. So as we know, every connector in Power Platform has basically a per connection limit. And if we have like 490 Power Automate flows that hit that limit, we will have to go in every flow and check whether that is really the issue. While if we have a middleware, the CRM will stay clean and every error will be displayed in the middleware and not in the CRM. The CRM will only know that they are connected to a stable connection to some external source. Duplicate logic, we all know this is a big issue. So duplicate logic will be scattered everywhere. This is because most of the developers don't use a shared database or shared like source control where everyone can, let's say, call the functions from the same place. So they just push code on their own, and everything becomes like multiple. So if I ask you where, for example, where's the business logic for the approving of purchase orders, and you don't have one source of truth to tell me, that means you have duplicate logic. So we want to avoid it as well. This is the part as I mentioned, this is the only thing I want you to take out of this presentation if you can. Not because it's the most complex or anything, but just because it's basically a framework that you can follow, and visually it's like very, very simple. So you can just know where to start from, right? So we have three layers. As we can see, we have the citizen layer, basically the Power Platform environment, which contains, Canvas app, Power Automate flows, Dataverse, etc. We have the system layer. Basically, we have the on-premise databases, the legacy systems, SAP, ERP, stuff like that. And then we have the integration layer in the middle, which basically connects the two. And my whole point with this presentation is to tell you that when connecting Power Platform with external legacy systems, the middleware is not optional, it's necessary. Because without the integration layer, when connecting citizen layer to system layer, as we saw on the visual, basically one change in the system layer, one basic update, everything fails in the Power Platform, layer. So basically imagine the Azure middleware integration layer as is basically the bodyguard in the club, because he checks for authentication, he checks for who has the right privileges, who cannot, who can enter, who cannot enter. So basically that's what it is. We have some real patterns that work. And one thing, let me just go back. One thing I want to mention, I want to make this like a bit more concrete to give an example of how this will work. So let's say at the citizen layer, we have a warehouse manager that has that's connected on a Canvas app. He can see purchase orders and he clicks submit, right? That's it for him. He has 10 to 15 seconds. The heavy lifting will all be transferred to the integration layer. It will not be in Power Automate flows and stuff like that. So he will not have to wait on anything. Everything will be transferred asynchronously to the integration layer. The API management layer will receive that and will authenticate, will validate everything to see the privileges, roles, etc. When everything's good, he will send that message to the Azure Service Bus. Why we need Service Bus? We need it because when working asynchronously, we want to keep track of everything, and we don't want to lose data, basically. So Service Bus has dead letter queues implemented and can also retry if the destination is temporarily down or is not stable. So that's what the integration layer currently does. Then we can have, let's say, a logic app that picks up the message based on the message topic, of course. It picks up the message and runs the approval routing logic. If for purchase orders under 10K, it automatically approves and just writes to the ACP or ERP system. For purchase orders over 10K, it sends a notification to a finance manager that needs to first approve the purchase order, and then everything is written to the ERP. So basically, notice that the citizen layer or the Power Platform environment doesn't know that it's connected to a system layer, and the system layer didn't know that there is a Canvas app involved at all, because the integration layer basically made the legacy system modern, so the citizen layer or Power Platform layer can basically recognize it as a stable connection. We have some real patterns that work. I'm gonna talk about a few of these we can use in multiple scenarios, multiple frameworks, of course. We have the API facade pattern. We have, so the thing here is, if your legacy systems basically exposes, it doesn't expose REST JSON, it exposes SOAP 1.1 version from 2003, let's say. API can handle that seamlessly. It can take that, transform it into REST JSON, and can seamlessly send it to the Power Platform without the Power Platform making an issue or anything. If you want to version the API management layer, you can also version it, let's say, from version 1 to version 2. The version 1 flows will keep intact, it will keep going while gradually increasing the version 2 flows. And of course, the security policies are all in the API management layer. As I mentioned earlier, we have authentication, IP and whitelist and stuff like that, so everything is in the managed API management layer. Next, we have the service bus choreography. This is basically transferring the heavy lifting to be done asynchronously, because if we wait synchronously, basically we can wait a long time, and the user wants to continue using the user interface, so we don't have to do that. Imagine if we have like 300 Power Automate flows that are hitting timeouts with, of course, with complex logic. We don't want to do that. We can just connect them to asynchronously to call the API management layer. And as you can see, there's also dead layer queue mentioned there. We can have dead layer queues because they're easy to catch the messages that have failed, and it's easier to inspect them. We also have custom connector bridge in Power Platform, in Power Automate. Basically, instead of having everyone with access to a Power Automate flow basically getting to read the credentials that are in it, we can just wrap everything in custom connector using environment variables as well. And the throttling, authentication, and error handling, schema validation as well will be all handled in the custom connector. And basically, with one connection reference for the custom connector, it can easily be transferred through multiple environments. Only the endpoint URL will be changed when transferring through an environment. And then we have a pattern for event-driven triggers. So this is basically, we can use, because legacy systems often fire events, right? We have creation of record, update, file, upload, stuff like that. Event grid, we can use event grid to catch all those events, and we can trigger basically, I mean, every individual component on every event grid as we want, and they're of course independent. One event grid can be Power Automate flow, another event can be for logic app, let's say, and of course they're independent. If one fails, it doesn't affect the other, and vice versa. Here we have some legacy system strategies I would like to talk about. We can see we have a low risk quick wins, and as we go, we will come to a long-term solutions, high-value solutions. So let me start with the RAP. Basically, most enterprises that try to work with legacy systems end up in the RAP strategy. Is because it's the fastest to implement. We just need to put one API management layer from Azure middleware in the middle, and that's it. But it's not always the best case scenario, because we should pick this based on the life trajectory of your legacy system, right? I will mention why. So RAP basically is used when we know that we're still going to use the legacy system. Nice. we know that we're gonna still use the legacy system. Basically, we know we are not going to erase it immediately, right? So we put a API management layer in between, and we basically make the legacy system look modern for the Power Automate and for a Power Platform environment. And it doesn't really know it's connected to a legacy system, only to a API management layer, because everything is like adapted. Now the upside to this is that it's implemented very fast, and it quickly increases speed and performance for the enterprise. The downside is that if you want to, let's say, replace the legacy system at some point in time, this architecture will have to be changed, because this actually keeps the legacy system alive. So we'll have to change this if you want to replace the legacy system or delete it at all. Next, we have the bridge. This is basically, it's self-explanatory. It's a bridge between a cloud environment and on-premise environment. This is a bridge by using gateway or hybrid connections in Azure. And this is basically not using Azure as a middleware for adapting stuff and stuff like that, but it's when you really want to keep the legacy system alive and you really, really need to connect the cloud and legacy system directly. The downside here is that the gateway is very slow and it's not meant for huge data processing and transfer. The upside is if for some reason you must keep cloud and legacy system alive together without a Azure middleware, you can have this. It's not ideal, but this can actually happen. So it's another strategy you can use in your enterprise. At 3, we have the strangle. This is where we actually start eliminating legacy systems slowly. It's called basically strangle because you slowly start to eliminate the legacy systems. The analogy I like to use is you have an old kitchen, basically the legacy system, and then you create a new kitchen alongside it without fully deleting the old one or removing the old one. You start moving, let's say, simple logic stuff, not the complex one, but the simple logic stuff to the new environment slowly, gradually, until it can handle everything, right? You make fast food, fries, burgers in the new kitchen first, then you go to Michelin stars, and then you remove the old kitchen as well because you don't need it anymore. So that's the strangle. The downside here is that, first, how it's different from the first two is that this actually doesn't want to keep the legacy system alive. These two keep it alive, bridge keeps it alive, wrap also keeps it alive, but hides it from the Power Platform environment. Strangle actually gradually deletes it. The downside here is that it takes time because you're gradually doing it, but the upside is if you have time, if you're not in a hurry, it's basically safe to test and safe to implement, basically. The last we have replace, as you can see, and you can guess because it's self-explanatory. Basically, you replace the whole legacy system. You just delete it and create a new one from scratch. This is if you have no time and you have so much belief in your coworkers that you can do this immediately. I'm not sure who'll do this, but if it's according to your scenario, then that's okay. Basically, what's different from the other is that this just nukes the legacy system, just deletes it immediately and creates a new one, and everything is transferred to the new environment. Now, I'm gonna mention a bit about governance and security. Don't really know too much in depth about this, but I'm gonna mention some important stuff that I've encountered. So, the environment strategy is we need to have promotion gates when migrating data. And most importantly, when migrating data, we need to use like the Power Platform pipelines, and at the end have a human basically approve the migration, not just everything going automatically. And we need to allow in sandbox and in dev, of course, we need to have some restrictions as to not to leak business data, but not so much restrictions as to the developers cannot experiment with this kind of stuff. right? We also have DLP policies for Power Platform, Power Automate connectors. We have business, non-business, and blocked. So business and business connectors can work together because they both have business data. Business and non-business cannot work because if you have business data that will get pulled from that connector, you cannot use non-business because it can get leaked to some non-business external systems. And basically, blocked connectors cannot be used anywhere, so they're not basically recommended for this kind of scenario. And for governing the environments, we need to use basically application insights for this stuff because we can log everything, and it's basically better for system admin overview and stuff like that. So I think application insights are best for that scenario. We have security checklist as well, using managed identities for all Azure resources instead of putting credentials in some hard-coded configurations or hard coding in the basically in Azure functions or stuff like that. We can use managed identities to trigger them. And if we must use some credentials or some client secrets, stuff like that, we can put them in Azure Key Vault as well, because that's where we keep secrets safe. We need to use service users for Power Automate Flows authentication, stuff like that, because there are a lot of times where the Power Automate Flows are connected or are created by some developer that will eventually or sometime leave the company, and then the flow fails and we don't know why it fails, because it's not using a service user, it's using a personal user that's currently deactivated, right? As I mentioned, App Insights, of course, Azure Monitor and App Insights, it will provide every detail we have. We can log from Azure functions, log information, log errors, stuff like that. It has a great overview. It has invocations, when it was invocated, and the logs. It's perfect for this kind of scenario. Now we're gonna go into a few scenarios and how we can choose the right pattern for our enterprise, right? So basically, if the legacy system is stable and we don't have to change it, as I mentioned, we have the wrap scenario. We just put the API management layer in between. We can just transfer and transform the data, even if it's SOAP, REST, JSON, whatever it is. Power Platform doesn't know it's connected to legacy. Legacy doesn't know it's connected to Power Platform. The API management layer handles everything. B, we have if the system is on-premise and cannot move to cloud. So this is where basically we have the bridge, we have the on-premise data gateway and the hybrid connections from Azure. If you must keep both of those alive, this is the scenario for your enterprise. Let's see, we have if you want high volume asynchronous stuff, we have the service bus choreography, because service bus can basically has dead letter queues, it has retries, it has everything like that. So this is the scenario for enterprise. And at the end we have the event grid. If we have a legacy events that need to be reached to many consumers, right? Because we have event grid, it can catch every legacy event that's triggered. We can just basically fire whatever Azure component we want on event grid, and it will be independent. And this is a scenario for your enterprise. And we have a golden rule here. If in doubt, the integration layer should be added first, because everything can be modified later. But if you do everything without the integration layer cannot be added later. And we have some key takeaways here. As I mentioned, now we should start with integration layer, with the API management layer and service bus, and everything else can follow. If needed, we can change it later, but don't leave the API management layer for later. Never connect Power Automate directly to legacy, because this exposes security problems. As I mentioned earlier, we need to go through a managed API management layer or a service bus for the layer queues and retries. And we can choose our legacy strategy based on the life trajectory of our legacy system, not by default, not go to wrap immediately. Of course, the wrap is easiest to implement, but it's not always the best case. We have governance. Governance isn't optional. We have to keep in mind governance and security stuff especially if we start from scratch, because it can hurt us in the long run. And in the well, when talking about starting from scratch, we need to build observability from day one. We have application installs, diagnostics, logs, stuff in Power Platform as well. So yeah, and yeah, this is the end. Thank you for everyone for your attention. I hope my English was okay. If you have any questions, please fire up and give me some feedback for how I can improve. Да, па не сакај ги првум да го вратам. Limit? SS, right? Sticks. It was like upload. Ajde idem. Прашање? Не мораш на англиски. Не мораш на англиски.
Ora deve essere lontano posso se essere AI i gens de vecchio incident by si kupali to hino tali pivo poprem adoption rate na AI. Кој е уште бенефитот да се градат интеграции, нали, да се правила не миграција на клауд, кога го несуваме уште има тоа не предности со образованието legacy систем со cloud системи и двете да бидат активни во избора. Зашо? Пошто веќе има глобал од лапки да се коректират, има проектори што леско се представуваат се кај до legacy системи на тапке не веќе тампа, зашо не градат кај ја е директно од legacy системи. Пак би требало интеграција со cloud и би било пост.
Не им требало, да кажеме. Како што спомнав, ако мора да ги користат тие да има исто добри начини, ова бидејќи беше со Azure Middleware поврзано, ова е начин како со Azure Hybrid Connections да ги поврзат. Не е може најдобриот начин, не сум запознаен со AI конектори и такви работи, ама може и со тоа да се користи, само тоа беше едно сценарио каде што буквално Middleware, Azure Middleware ќе се користи како посредник, да кажеме.
Ама кој е бенефит уште да се градат такви интеграции? Зашо отиде не останам само со Copilot, со лапка да го врзам директно со дата и системите на Legacy и кој користам AI за моја бизнес. Има ли уште големи предности и бенефици да се градат интеграциите или да се прави целосно интеграција на това?
Како што кажав, зависи од фирма дали сакаш да правиш целосна миграција на клауд, не мора нели да сакаш, ама ако сакаш да правиш, најдобро е за data sync да се користи тоа, и ако сакаш да користиш Azure, не мора да користиш Azure и со AI исто добра опција. Не знам која е разликата, например брзина, такви работи, тоа не сум запознаен, ама сигурно има и други опции како е конектор и сакам да кажам дека има бенефит со тоа што може да се направи со Azure, не дека е подобро нели од другите, ама е како опција и постои.
Само за којза овие много теги системите и не побудува дека и тој и нара сај. Еки лесија паус. Тој па use case така тоа е business story. Ja. Имате копива нено шапалка да се бивала по степа па лајже. Тој сигурно о том време да се крие како и не сум на матчит, бе,
Немам, не.
Дали има проблеми кој миграција, некој полагам не е нигде ако се да тоа валидација. Цел системно не може да се префулива во секој.
Не, немам. Ја кога правев истражување за овие работи, бидејќи нели Azure Middleware, зборев за сите
Пета година. Енку tot тебе е сосабаш. Вие ти работи локална весера. И дали работи меѓутоа за да докренеш на бал,
Ora, prvo da migriraš na verzija, pa posle você ima toolčiš, ki možeš preko toga, da postaviš na SQL basa, pa posle take migriraš.
Potom se reči še.
Tu to si je, da rečem, pari cegov, da kaže, pa se ima so kovos, fortras.
Doš.
Uh,
I ti štuštima mnogo stadi.
Se stavil, pa što realno, koga togaš, ќе mora. Едно што ќе им прегорат са 9, друго што лево, да речем изумравнирите што може да изтира.
Odjeveće da loptara by dosa kupijamo i kvälja. Tada ima šić. Kjera pa to.
Sì, oni saka zakaslitet. Esa jedno da še jetoš. Da li ќе да речеме у овој начин на функционирање веќе од од динамикс од наша гледна точка ќе ја мемава структурата на тимовите за имплементација. Во која сва порано да речеме за некој поедноставни проекти, ќе има проектен начер, ќе има консултант, ќе има девелопер, ќе се среди да работат. Давне си веќе значи да към да речеме системаш ли. Затоа што application insights и такви работи се малку на порисок од никола на
Можно е да се додаде уште еден човек да кажеме, меѓутоа јас кога сум работел на проект со ова, имаме само архитект, например, тој веќе си беше во тимот, не додавме систем админ или нешто такво, каде што ги имаше сите привилегии и го направи целиот сетап во Azure. Сега потребно е него да му дадат пристап, да му креираат app registration за он да се креира све таму, меѓутоа не мораше систем админ или некој друг да викнеме, да го повараме за да го сетапира се тоа, туку на архитектот му е тоа во скоп на работа.
Да ти презаводно на проект штил работено, пошто беше, че ми боле на препарации, поделени улоги, никаде ништо нема пристап. И за педно, ајде да речеме, флоп, што треба да праќа информации до application insights, си избави да не речеме 2 месец.
Да.
Тој забава со себе
Да. Не, треба да се вклучи човек што има познавање за Azure дефинитивно. Дали ќе биде тоа систем админ што ќе има, обично они даваат само аксес до такви работи, пристап. Архитектот треба да ги знае тие работи, така да ако веќе има, ја во секој проект што сум работел, имало архитект и ако некој треба веќе ги знае, он треба да ги знае, ако не, нормално ако не ги знае никој ќе мора нов да донесеме.
Кај има бешки кои бодиќе, да како да ќе имамо да го писта зашто самиот жут и да го наложи целиот видео. Таа сте
Хао знаеца. Рики ге го викнаа.
Kocevski da se polo zato sama ta aplikacija. Kaj pa se ima krani polijati za tem, no to je samo na početku. Kaj da raze operativno da sa, što je to? Ovo implementacija ili integration ki pa suba te oper integration. Bojiš i anvenderskap так се те се пиши да греш 6.
Тоа е друго. Има тим, бро. Тимот нема да се смени, бро. Дали ќе работи, не знам.
Но на тие 4 начи.
На здравје, бро.
Однос на цера, најисплавнев integration layouts. Да речеме
Плановите? Мислам дека немам тука планови, ама има consumption план, премиум и има како app сервис да ти постои.
Wat ben je? Ти бе пхет. Желаш бе. Тесте ряпа то ще пуштера. Зум живе вам обига. Пуштера. Се тъй. Пан Ајде да речеме, ако су ја некоја компанија, кој што има legacy систем, и сакам да отидам нагоре, ама буџетот ми е лимитиран. Сега од овие, дали имаш парит нешто представа кое кошта? Кој дел ќе се скапи го изделки?
Ако го користиме да
Зошто би преферал податоци на database, ако можам баш директно до on-premise систем, дори ми прикажемо до во Canvas App, да, ќе има database, меѓутоа податоците ќе си останат во legacy систем. Значи, дали има реално потреба да префрлам колку кошта и самите Azure калкулации, поспоредно ако се префрлени во database, тука да се прават.
пак ќе спомнам, битно е колку време сакаш да го користиш legacy системот. Значи ти имаш, сега можеш да го поврзаш директно. Да. Да. Сега, за тоа да се направи, мислам, за споро тоа да се прави, да не биде одеднаш, за да биде сейф, најдобар е Strangle. Тука ќе се криеш само уште една платформа околина, клауд околина. И полека ќе ги префрлаш работите, ќе се користи за сите овие, ќе се користи истиот middleware, буквално, освен за bridge, нели, тоа е gateway од premise до cloud директ, ама за другите ќе се користи истото и само ќе имаш префрлање на дата, ќе менуваш логиката од наместо да насочува на едно место, ќе се насочува на друго место полека, тоа што не е толку комплексна. Не може така некако. Јо, replace може да те кошта најскапо ако пошто одеднаш го бришеш све па креираш ново, ако направиш грешка, затоа е high risk. Ако направиш грешка може да те кошта уште повеќе. Да. Да, пошто ова многу лесно се имплементира. Нема, ова само го крие legacy, ова ќе ти постои legacy. Затоа овие не ги гледаме. Од тие две само.
I was up position of previous over where rap preach me plaša и ги тела бага и рад со pictures. А варалда да со сал. Да ваја со picture за епос. Да ваја со picture за Asia. Да упари крича да сал за сал. Значи, обратно би било, лема на десно кошта тој, па. Повратно диш најново тоа ќе бе месец. Ако не заимаме во обзир development team така. На replace, а биде во background највопо на кош. They beat the placards pictures on the table.
Идеално сценарио е така, ако replace ти успее без никаков ерор, да го избришеш и да го избришеш цел legacy и да го направиш cloud, тогаш си одличен. Ама да, пошто во Rapid Bridge уште постојат сите три системи, значи имаш, односно два, имаш middleware како layer и плюс имаш два системи, така да ги плаќаш и нив. Не се плаши, брат. Знам дека е страшно. Нема ефтина варијација. Да, само еден middleware и само манипулираш. Зависи што сакаш да правиш. Ова се различни начини на оперирање со middleware, не дека ти додаваш нешто во него. Ќе си имаш insights, ќе си имаш функции, ќе си имаш logic apps, ќе си имаш service bus, сите компоненти у Azure. Да, ама ако не ги зголемуваш многу, да кажеме, ако менуваш нешто, пак ќе идат низ еден или два сервис бас само кон друга дестинација. Не дека ај сега ќе менјам, ќе ми треба да го трнам legacy или да ми остане legacy и сега ќе додавам сервис бас без потреба. Тоа сакам да кажам. И да се зголеми, кој што рече Шамак, тоа е per execution се плаќа, не е нешто ново.
Дека се басата на сатиот стандард при падал. Now, to find the lesson, they all test
Цяла на презентацијата и дека е скап. Дечки, тоа е тоа од мене. На здравје презентација.